The Aether Affair, Rise of an Elemental Master. Chapter 1, A Quiet Morning in Ashford. The morning sun streamed through the towering windows of the Ashford Library, casting elongated golden beams on the polished wooden floor. Birds chirped outside, their songs mixing with the soft rustle of pages turning and the distant murmurs of townsfolk lost in tales of faraway lands. Ashford was a picturesque town, holding on to its rich history with cobbled streets, old stone houses with chimneys always puffing gentle trails of smoke, and children playing in its many squares. At its heart stood the Ashford Library, a magnificent relic of the past with its tall spires and Gothic architecture. It was the town's pride and often the hub of all activity. Inside the library, the scent of aged paper and leather-bound covers filled the air. Rows of towering bookshelves, resembling ancient sentinels, guarded the knowledge of centuries. Elara Turner moved gracefully between these aisles, her fingers dancing over the spines of books as she arranged them in their proper places. With her long chestnut hair tied in a loose bun and wearing her usual attire, Elara looked every bit the librarian that she was. Her hazel eyes, always with a hint of mischief, scanned the room, ensuring everything was in order. Occasionally, she'd smile at a regular patron or guide a lost visitor to the section they sought. As she slid a book into its slot on the shelf, she paused, hearing the gentle laughter of children from the reading corner. She walked over and found a small group gathered around Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly volunteer who was vividly recounting tales from a book of fairy tales. Elara smiled, her heart warmed by the scene. This was her sanctuary, where stories lived and dreams took flight. She felt a tap on her shoulder and turned to see Mrs. Blackwood, a loyal patron and cherished friend.
Good morning, Elara.
She greeted with a soft smile, her eyes sparkling behind her round glasses.
Good morning, Mrs. Blackwood.
Elara replied, her voice gentle.
Looking for that new historical novel?
Mrs. Blackwood chuckled.
You know me too well, dear.
As the two shared a brief conversation, the library's large clock chimed, signaling the start of another day in Ashford. The clock was familiar, comfortable, safe. After so long hearing it, Elara had almost stopped even registering the sound, just accepting it as normal. Chapter 2, Whispers of Change. The Ashford Library's stately clock continued its steady rhythm as the day unfolded, a metronome to the town's gentle pace. Within its halls, Elara glanced down at a bright-eyed girl clutching a thick adventure novel to her chest.
That one's a favorite of mine.
Elara shared, her voice tinted with fond nostalgia.
Are you enjoying it?
The girl nodded eagerly, her voice a whisper of excitement.
It's amazing. The hero fights a dragon and saves the entire kingdom.
Elara knelt to meet the girl's eye level, her eyes reflecting the spark of passion ignited by the tale.
You know,
She said with a conspiratorial smile.
there's a power in stories. They can inspire us and challenge us.
Her fingertips brushed the cover of the book, lightning of understanding flashing in her gaze.
Sometimes the heroes we read about remind us that we all have the strength to make a difference, just like them.
The young reader's eyes widened with possibility, the seeds of potential sown by Elara's words. As the girl skipped away, buoyed by the wings of narrative, Elara rose to her feet, lost in thought.
Can a simple story truly inspire change?
She wondered. The day continued as usual, with patrons coming and going in silent waves, the rustle of pages and the soft thud of books as companions. Elara's routine never faltered, as she organized, cataloged, and shared pieces of her world, one book at a time. In the late afternoon, when the sun's angle filtered through the lead-light windows and painted the walls with a kaleidoscope of soft hues, an unusually decorated spine peeked out from behind ancient encyclopedias on the top shelf. With a curious tilt of her head, she reached for it, its texture unfamiliar beneath her fingertips. The silver embossing of the title, The Chronicle of Elements, danced in the light, gleaming in the dim glow of the evening. Tucking the tome under her arm, she found a secluded corner, her heart alight with a fresh sense of discovery. Leather creaked as she opened the cover, dust motes pirouetting in the air. The pages were thick parchment, covered with scrawled ink and unfamiliar symbols that teased her curiosity. Without fully understanding why, Alara's eyes were drawn to an incantation that seemed to spark with an otherworldly aura. The wind seemed to whisper along.
In Yggdrasils skugga, tysta viskningar röra, eldar dansa, vatten väver djupets saga, vindens andetag, jordens styrka famnar, krafter vakna, genom tiden, i elementens namn.
The words rolled off her tongue in a language she did not know but somehow understood. An unseen energy surged through the library as the final syllable hung in the air. Outside, a gust of wind erupted from stillness, sending leaves spiraling in a chaotic dance. Alara stood frozen, a wave of unexplainable sensations coursing through her. It was as if a dormant storm, long brewing in the depths of her being, had abruptly awakened. She felt a sudden warmth spread from her core, radiating outward like a sunburst. Her hands tingled with an unfamiliar yet comforting energy, as if a pressure had been released. Flames danced without a source. Water rose from a vase in an elegant spiral. The earth of a potted plant swirled, and a breeze disturbed a wisp of hair that had escaped her bun. In this moment of chaos, Alara stood at the eye of a storm she had unwittingly conjured, her mind grappling with the reality of her latent power that now surged to life, making her question reality itself. Fearing for her sanity, Alara stumbled backward, flinging the book blindly in the opposite direction. She stood silent, trying to process what had just happened. The clock tower chimed once more, its familiar sound a comforting anchor in the turbulence. Gradually, her senses returned, her thoughts slowed. Deliberately, she picked up the book from where she had thrown it. Alara was determined to lock away the book, to bury it deep within the library's labyrinthine heart, far from curious hands, or more frighteningly, her own faltering conviction. Chapter 3, Embers of Revelation. There's no such thing as a cursed incantation. A dream, perhaps? No. The scent of singed paper was unmistakably real, as was the palpable heat that kissed her flushed skin. A surreal calm had befallen the room. The library, once her refuge and solace, was now a perplexing canvas of her unbidden magical abilities. Books lay scattered, their pages bearing witness to her unwitting command over ancient elements. Guided by an insatiable curiosity, Alara ventured back to the enigmatic tome. Her thumb brushed over the book's silver-embossed title, and a sliver of heat emanated from her skin. Beside her, flames licked the underside of a shelf, a silent, creeping danger that multiplied before she could even choke out a gasp, then erupted into flames. It was different this time than the first. She could feel that the power was coming, not from the book, but from inside of her, through her fingers, snaking like grass roots under her skin. With no time to spare, Alara threw the book aside and focused. She turned towards the burgeoning inferno with outstretched arms. She whispered a plea, a command, anything to douse the threatening spread. The flames subsided, obedient to her silent command, as she felt energy return to her. Trembling with the aftershock of this controlled burn, she examined her hands, marveling at how something so extraordinary could come from something so ordinary. The receding fear was replaced by an ember of resolve. She couldn't run from this. It was a part of her now. Either she understood her newfound power and learned to control it, or she let it consume her. Closing her eyes, Alara collected her thoughts, focusing on the sparks of power that flared within her. She recalled the elements' dance, fire that breathed to her rhythm, water that wove into her will, earth that shifted at her silent plea, and air that caressed her thoughts. When she looked at her surroundings, she saw them anew, not as a librarian, but as a guardian of ancient secrets. For all the allure of surrendering to ignorance, Alara knew she possessed a responsibility that could not be shelved away like a misfit manuscript. This power is dangerous, so she had a responsibility to learn to control it. She would study, practice, and shield others from the dangers of her mysterious abilities until she was certain of her control. Drawing the book back into her embrace, Alara whispered a promise to control these powers to keep others safe from her. Now that calm had resumed, Alara began her self-imposed regimen. She started with reorganizing the library's sections that had been disturbed during the incident. As she moved methodically through the aisles, the familiar enveloped her like a blanket, and a few times she almost forgot how crazy this all was. Almost. The library's clock, ever punctual, chimed once more. Chapter 4, The Guardian's Bond. As the last light of day bled into twilight, a new presence marked the threshold of the Ashford Library. The door creaked open, drawing Alara's attention away from the grimoire before her. A young man, exuding a sense of cavalier confidence, walked in. The disheveled cascade of dark hair and the striking green eyes that met hers held a world of untold stories. The leather jacket he wore seemed to bear witness to countless adventures.
Finlark.
He introduced himself, his lips curving slightly into a smile. His eyes lazily wandered around the room, observing the toppled shelves and the lingering faint scent of ozone.
Doesn't seem like these books are very well taken care of.
Alara fought away the idea that this was indeed her fault as she clutched the Chronicle of Elements a little tighter, annoyed but still shaken.
The library is closed. You should leave. There was a little accident, but it's under control now.
She lied. Finn's expression softened as he tilted his pendant between his fingers.
This,
He said,
led me to you. It reacts to the awakening of elemental users.
Alara's caution mingled with curiosity. She gestured for him to sit, her eyes never leaving the emblem representing a world she did not yet comprehend.
And what exactly is an elemental user?
She asked, the phrase feeling foreign on her tongue. With measured patience, Finn recounted the legacy of elemental guardians, a secret lineage dedicated to preserving the harmony of the classical powers throughout history. He spoke of Alara's role in an age-old saga that was now unfolding, emphasizing the importance of understanding and controlling her newfound abilities.
Without guidance, these powers can be more curse than blessing.
Finn cautioned, his own past sorrows briefly clouding his features.
But I can help you if you'll allow me.
In the quiet space between them, a tenuous trust began to form, forged by the extraordinary circumstances that had thrown their lives together. As Alara shared a tentative smile, Finn sensed a hidden power in her. Over the following days, as autumn leaves whispered tales of change, Finn became Alara's mentor, her friend. They practiced in seclusion, away from prying eyes, first with water, as Alara learned to command streams to flow gracefully, and then halt at her mere thought. A ripple of excitement traveled through her as she held a small vortex in her palm, her control steady and firm. Next was earth, where she discovered the ability to coax the soil to shift and mold into forms of her choosing, even plants, a dance of creation between her will and the living land. The air was next, where at Finn's example, she learned to weave breezes into gusts that could lift her hair in playful swirls or send a cascade of fallen leaves spinning around them. But with fire came hesitation. This was the element that had nearly consumed Alara's sanctuary, so it now elicited a pang of fear. Finn stood beside her, his hands guiding hers as they summoned a tiny flame, no bigger than a candle's light.
It's a part of you, Alara.
Finn reminded gently,
No more inherently dangerous than a river or a breeze. You have the strength to harness and bend it to your will.
Alara felt her fears slowly ease, trusting in his guidance as the flames grew brighter. Even as Alara relaxed, Finn could sense a looming threat. His senses honed from years of evading capture and protecting his lineage's secrets. He knew they had little time to waste. More than ever, Alara's training took on a sense of urgency, her every success and setback underlain with the knowledge that her abilities must remain concealed from those who would seek to exploit or extinguish them. Despite Finn's unease, each day ended in quiet laughter and shared stories as the last embers of the sunset colored the sky. The foundation of their partnership was set, an unspoken pact against any dangers that might come their way. Chapter 5, Whispers of Darkness. The veil of night draped the coastline under a shroud of clouds, obscuring the moon's glow and offering scant light for the restless figure pacing within the towering walls of an ancient stronghold. Lord Calum stood before a colossal window, his silhouette sharp and ominous against the darkness. His eyes, like shards of ice, pierced the obscurity. A ripple in the ether, a current he hadn't felt in centuries, caught his attention.
Yes, I feel it. A new elemental, somewhere to the east.
He whispered to himself, glancing out his window, the notion of such power hidden within his domain, igniting a venomous mix of intrigue and malice. A smile, devoid of warmth, curved one side of his mouth as he contemplated the possibilities. In Ashford, Alara's sleep was uneasy, haunted by dreams of relentless pursuit and the unfamiliar weight of power she now carried. Each morning, the reality of her newfound abilities and a vague looming threat pressed upon her, casting a somber reminder of the impending danger. Throughout the day, Alara's senses heightened. A sensation of constant surveillance crept over her skin like the first chill of winter. Finn recognized the change, observing the furtive glances she cast and the tension in her shoulders as they traversed the library's tranquil halls.
We're safe here for now.
Finn assured her, his voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. However, as dusk enveloped Ashford, the situation shifted. The shadows lengthened, and Lord Calum's influence grew. His ethereal spies, born from the ether, slipped through the town unnoticed, drawn to the vibrant energy radiating from Alara. Within the library's quietude, amidst tomes of forgotten lore and whispered histories, the atmosphere grew oppressive. Alara's breath caught in her throat as the pulse of the earth beneath her feet hummed with urgent warnings. Finn, engrossed in translating a text, suddenly looked up, his gaze locking with Alara's. They both felt it, an encroaching cold, the tendrils of Calum's ether winds snaking through Ashford's streets.
Alara, we need to leave now.
Finn's voice was resolute, his hand reaching for the pendant around his neck, which vibrated with a silent alarm, a sentinel for the peril lurking just outside their haven. They raced through the labyrinthine corridors of the library, Alara's heart pounding erratically. Behind them, the sound of shelves crashing and an unnatural gust of wind echoed through the air, a chilling indication that they were no longer alone. Outside, a dense fog had descended upon Ashford. The pair darted through the obscure streets, their breath clouding in the frigid air. Alara's control over the elements wavered. Each wave of ether Calum's forces sent out clashed with the harmony of her powers, causing the earth to shudder and the wind to howl in discord. They found themselves at an abandoned mill on the town's outskirts, its imposing structure looming in the mist like a silent sentinel. Within the vast, echoing space, Alara and Finn turned to face the ethereal phantoms seeping through the walls, their forms as treacherous and elusive as the shadows from which they emerged. Finn's eyes narrowed in concentration. With a swift incantation, he conjured a mighty gust, scattering the enemies like leaves in a tempest. But the respite proved fleeting. As Alara summoned flames to fend off another wave of assailants, her fire sputtered and waned, starved of the air it craved. The ether stifled her conjured water jets and quaked the earth she attempted to reshape as barriers. Caelim's forces pressed closer, their dark whispers weaving a cacophony that overwhelmed Alara's senses. They were everywhere and nowhere, an onslaught of emptiness and chill.
Focus, Alara.
Finn shouted above the din, his gaze briefly meeting hers.
You are stronger than him. Don't try to force it. Feel the elements.
Taking a deep, steadying breath, Alara delved inward, seeking the ember of strength within her core. With eyes tightly shut, she envisioned the gentle flow of a stream, the warmth of a hearth fire, the unwavering strength of ancient trees, and the boundless freedom of mountain air. She exhaled, and the elements responded, a veil of mist to hide in, a protective ring of fire to repel the advancing threat, roots writhing up from the wooden floorboards to bind, and a shield of wind to deflect the biting cold. Alara's powers surged with renewed vigor, countering Caelim's minions with the untamed might of nature. The battle raged on, with Finn and Alara at the heart of the elemental vortex. But the strain took its toll. Sweat beaded on Alara's brow, her once steady stance wavering. Her elements flickered, struggling to maintain form as the ether tightened its grip. In the escalating chaos, an eerie silence fell, a pause pregnant with the ominous threat of an impending storm. By unspoken accord, Alara and Finn retreated, slipping away through a hidden passage in the mill, narrowly evading their pursuers' relentless grasp. Emerging into the safety of darkness, Alara's pulse hammered with adrenaline and fear. They had escaped, but Lord Caelim's message was clear as the starless night sky. He was aware of Alara. He would stop at nothing to extinguish the light she brought into the world. The stakes had risen. The shadows now had a form, a purpose, and a master. Alara's breath came in ragged gasps, but amidst the fear and uncertainty, a spark of defiance ignited within her. Together, they would confront Caelim's challenge head-on, drawing upon every breath, every ounce of strength, and the unwavering power of their bond. Chapter 6, Secrets Revealed. The moon cast its final ethereal glow on the Ashford landscape, its light waning in the face of impending dawn, as if holding back the day to protect the secrets of the night. In the dwindling hours of darkness, they found themselves desperate for a haven, a place where they could vanish from the prying eyes and whispers of danger that seemed to cling to the air like a persistent fog. As they moved, Finn broke the heavy silence that hung between them. He began, his voice low and hesitant.
Alara, there's something about your grandmother you need to know. She's like you. She has powers, too.
His words floated in the air, a revelation meant to shock, but Alara was too tired, too entangled in the web of her own tumultuous thoughts to muster surprise. She merely nodded, accepting this new piece of the puzzle with a weary resignation. So, hoping it was still safe, they headed to Grandma Tala's modest home. It was a sanctuary nestled in a grove shielded by towering oaks at the edge of town, a place that promised solace and secrets hidden in the embrace of the old, wise trees. The night was a cloak they wrapped around themselves, a fleeting sanctuary as they moved through the shadows, carrying the weight of newly discovered truths and the hope that they could hide from the world that hunted them. Grandma Tala stood in the doorway, her eyes like ancient mirrors reflecting the world's secrets, filled with concern and profound understanding.
"I've been expecting you,"
she said, her voice heavy with unspoken knowledge. Inside the house, the scent of earth and herbs filled the air. Grandma Tala brewed a calming tea, setting the cups before the weary duo with arthritic yet graceful hands. Alara's gaze was haunted, her recent memories a relentless carousel of fear and power. Finn, meanwhile, nursed his own cup, the lines of fatigue etched into his face.
We need guidance, Tala.
Finn murmured, his thumb brushing over the pendant that had led them to Alara.
Caelim knows about her. We barely escaped last night.
Grandma Tala nodded, her white hair catching the light and giving her an ethereal aura.
Lord Calum has long awaited the emergence of another elemental. He will stop at nothing to crush any threat to his dominion.
She spoke with the gravity of one who had lived through the ages. Turning to Alara, her gaze sharp, she said,
Child, the origins of your powers are ancient, as old as the earth itself. And with them comes a responsibility to maintain balance. Calum seeks to tip that balance in his favor. To stand against him, your powers must be honed like the blade of a warrior.
Alara listened, her hands clenched tight around her tea, the warmth seeping into her skin.
How can I possibly strengthen my abilities enough to face someone like that?
There is a way.
Tala said, her voice taking on the rhythm of a chant.
An ancient elemental ritual passed down through generations, but it requires preparation and knowledge that has been long buried and forgotten. But you can dig it up if you know where to look.
Tala glanced toward Finn. Finn's eyes lit up with hope, the green in them reminiscent of new foliage after winter's thaw.
There's a repository of elemental knowledge hidden away by the Guardians. It would be there if there is any record of this ritual.
Grandma Tala's nod was slow and deliberate.
The path will not be easy.
She warned,
But if the two of you are to stand a chance, this knowledge is your foundation. You must go. Seek out this repository.
Alara and Finn exchanged a look, the kind that wordlessly sealed pacts and steeled resolve. They would face this together. Whatever this hidden library held, they would bring it to light. With her resolve hardened, Alara rose, her body language embodying the quiet strength that Grandma Tala had spoken of.
We'll sleep here tonight, and then we'll go to find this knowledge and do whatever it takes to protect the balance.
The old matriarch smiled, her expression one of pride and ancient sorrow.
Very well.
She said, standing to retrieve a small, intricately carved box from a high shelf. She handed it to Alara, who received it with reverence.
Inside you'll find a talisman. Use it to unlock the repository. And remember, the elements are not just your weapons. They are your allies, your protectors.
The night had stretched long, and with the dawn came not only the light of a new day, but also the promise of impending challenges. Refreshed and rejuvenated in the sanctuary of Grandma Tala's haven, they would rise, their shadows casting back into the past, their spirits bolstered by the interlude of rest. With a renewed spark of tenacity within them, they stood ready to confront the trials and tribulations that lay ahead. Armed with ancient secrets and an unwavering resolve to navigate the paths that unfolded before them. Chapter 7, The Elements' Trial. The sun had barely risen, its amber light casting long shadows upon the road as Alara and Finn journeyed beyond the confines of Ashford. The air was tinged with the scent of an impending storm, a symphony of nature that resonated with the urgency of their mission. The hidden repository that Finn spoke of lay situated in the ruins of an ancient elemental sanctuary, nestled within the heart of the verdant expanse, a forest as old as the legends that whispered through its leaves. With every step they took, Alara felt the hum of power that coursed beneath the earth, a silent yet profound affirmation of the path they had chosen. Their pace quickened as they sensed ever more ether-touched wraiths, always closer. Despite the danger, a spark of excitement thrived within Alara. The weight of destiny upon her felt almost like a cloak woven from threads of courage and fear. Their journey was fraught with trials. More than once, they had to draw upon Alara's newly mastered elemental powers to navigate obstacles, from enigmatic vines that blocked their path to crossing a tempestuous river that wound like a serpent through the expanse. In the heart of the forest, where the air vibrated with the raw essence of the elements, they happened upon a clearing. At its center stood a cloaked figure, his form seeming to blend with the flux of the woods. At their approach, the figure raised his head, revealing the age-worn face of an elemental master who had forsaken civilization to become one with the natural forces.
Who dares to disturb my peace?
The master's voice held the breadth of wind and the depth of the earth.
I am Alara Turner.
Ilara stated firmly, her voice gaining strength.
And this is Finn Lark. We seek your wisdom to perform a ritual that may stand against Lord Calum.
An ancient gaze studied them, peering into the very essence of their beings, before nodding ever so slightly.
I am Gaius, the last of the primal masters. I sensed a disturbance in the elemental balance.
As they narrated their journey in Tala's revelation, Gaius's keen eyes never wavered. With the tale told and the night closing in, he beckoned them to follow him deeper into the forest, to a place where the elements converged in perfect harmony. The ruins of the sanctuary revealed themselves bathed in the silver glow of the moon, ivy enveloping its stones like a solemn embrace. Gaius led them to the slumbering heart of the site, where runes of a time forgotten encircled a plinth, the repository lying within.
Here the knowledge you seek is guarded.
Gaius intoned, his voice echoing off the ancient stone.
Only one of true elemental spirit may reach within and draw forth the secrets of old.
Alara stepped forward, placing the talisman from Grandma Tala upon the plinth, feeling the surge of energy as the elements recognized their kin. One by one, the runes ignited a blinding dance of elemental power until the plinth finally split open, revealing the trove of wisdom within. Finn and Alara quickly amassed the scrolls and artifacts that spoke of the ritual needed to bolster Alara's abilities, their hands trembling with the weight of their findings. They gave their thanks to Gaius, whose eyes shone with a renewed sense of purpose.
Young ones, the time is near when the elements shall be put to the ultimate test.
Gaius warned them.
But fear not. The roots run deep, the winds carry secrets, flames ignite resolve, and the waters reflect truth. Trust in them, and in yourselves.
As they made their way back through the verdant expanse, Alara's connection to the elements grew more profound. The air whispered guidance, the earth steadied her steps, fire warmed her spirit, and water cleansed her doubts. Behind them, the storm that had been gathering now broke with fervor, lightning tearing across the skies. From his distant perch, Lord Calum felt the pulse of gathering power. With a snarl, he summoned his forces, his intention clear, to end Alara's ascent before the dawn of her true power. But amidst the gathering storm, Alara and Finn held on to hope and the knowledge that they may yet stand against the encroaching darkness with the ritual and Gaius's guidance. The coming days would see a clash of wills, a battle for the fate of the elements and the heart of the world they sought to protect. With each step homeward, Alara and Finn prepared for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that the next chapter in their saga would be the most perilous yet. But together, as champions of balance and guardians of the elemental legacy, they were determined to face whatever trials lay ahead. Chapter 8, Shadowfall Ambush. As the evening sun cast a golden glow over the landscape, Alara and Finn made their way back towards Ashford, their packs filled with ancient scrolls and artifacts. The day's discoveries had infused them with a sense of strength and purpose, lifting their spirits. Gaius's grave advice still lingered in their thoughts, yet a lighter mood prevailed. They meandered along the serpentine forest path, their conversation flowing as effortlessly as the trail beneath their feet, punctuated by laughter and shared tales. Their connection deepened, evidenced by the way Finn attentively followed Alara's gestures towards the sky's mesmerizing cloud patterns. In a spontaneous display of joy, they danced awkwardly along the path, with Alara humming a melody from days gone by, and Finn, less familiar with the tune, joining in. Their laughter was uninhibited, a testament to their burgeoning bond.
Finn.
Alara began, curiosity coloring her tone as she noticed his pendant's luminescence.
It's glowing. Do you think it knows we're happy?
Finn's demeanor changed instantly.
No, Alara, we need to...
It was too late. A surge of dark ether enveloped him, stifling his powers and leaving him defenseless. His eyes, filled with a mix of fear and resolve, met Alara's, silently urging her to escape as the darkness pulled him away. A second wave of darkness targeted Alara. Instinctively, her elemental powers surged in response, a fierce cry accompanying her summoning of wind and fire to push back the enveloping shadows. Yet, more assailants pressed on, challenging her defenses. Alara chose to flee, driven not by fear but by strategy, her mind racing to devise a plan to rescue Finn. Despite the relentless pursuit, her connection to the elements remained her ally. The earth accelerated her pace, the wind navigated her path, and the fire within her heart sustained her will to escape. As she darted through the forest, the place where Finn had been taken was swallowed by shadows, the air filled with the malevolent laughter of Calem's followers. The once serene sky, now marred by foreboding clouds and the occasional flash of lightning, mirrored the storm within Alara's heart. They meant to attack simultaneously, she realized. It would have been all over. Chapter 9, Echoes of Legacy. Alara's feet barely touched the ground as she raced through the dense thicket toward her grandmother's cottage. The night air was crisp, filled with the rustling of leaves and the distant howl of the wind. Her heart pounded, not just from the exertion, but also from the turmoil of fear and despair swirling within her. The cottage appeared, its windows glowing with a warm, welcoming light. Alara burst through the door, breathless, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush.
Grandma, Finn has been taken. I need your help to rescue him.
Tala, her grandmother, sat calmly, the lines on her face deepening as she absorbed the news.
My child, I am too old for such adventures. My days of wandering the forests and delving into mysteries are long past,
She said, her voice a blend of regret and realism.
But Gaius helped us and he's...
Alara started, her voice tinged with desperation. Tala cut her off.
Gaius is a grumpy old man who has already helped you more than I expected. Even if he's softened since last I asked him for help, he has fused with the land and cannot move.
Alara's shoulders slumped, a sense of hopelessness washing over her. Just as she turned to leave, resigned to face the perilous journey alone, Tala spoke again.
However, I may have something that can help.
From an old, ornate chest, Tala retrieved a pendant. Alara's eyes widened in surprise.
It's just like Finn's.
Tala nodded, her eyes glistening with sorrow and pride.
Yes, I also gave Finn his pendant. This one can guide you to him.
Still reeling from the revelation, Alara asked,
Did you always know I had powers?
Tala sighed, a distant look in her eyes.
I suspected. When you were young, I sensed a familiar energy in you, just as I had in your mother. These powers are passed down from parent to child.
Her gaze turned somber.
It might have been better if they remained latent for life, as they did for your mother. She died never having suspected a thing. Sometimes, ignorance is a blissful shield against the world's darkness.
Alara clutched the pendant tightly, its weight symbolic of the legacy and burden it represented.
I must go, Grandmother. I can't let Finn face this alone.
Tala reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she touched Alara's.
Be careful, my child. You carry not just your own fate, but the echoes of those who came before you.
With her expression hardened by resolve, Alara advanced towards the door, guided by the pendant's soft glow and her unwavering determination to rescue Finn. Pausing at the threshold, she cast a backward glance, a question burning in her eyes.
What does he want with us?
Tala, her expression a mixture of concern and solemnity, lightly touched Alara's arm, urging her to understand the gravity of their situation.
Hasn't Finn explained anything?
Alara's confusion was visible.
He always just said be careful, telling me we should never stray too far from each other. But he never explained why.
Tala sighed.
Calem sees anyone with your kind of power as a tool, Alara. To him, you're either a soldier in his relentless quest for dominance, or more dangerously, a vessel for his experiments with dark ether. He's known to twist and corrupt the innate abilities of those he cannot persuade, turning them into something else.
The notion of being used in such a manner sent a shiver down Alara's spine.
A vessel for dark ether.
she echoed, the horror of the implications settling in.
Yes, a battery for his twisted magic. And the same applies to Finn. If he's been captured, Calum will either try to bend his will or drain his essence.
Tala's voice grew heavy with concern.
And you, grandmother? Would he come after you as well?
Tala chuckled, a sound that held little mirth but much resolve.
He would have, perhaps. But I've spent over 40 years weaving enchantments into the oaks surrounding this cottage. They form a barrier, shielding me from his prying eyes and malevolent reach.
Alara took a deep breath, steeling herself.
Then I must go. I must find Finn before Calum can do any of this.
Yes, you must. But remember, you are not alone in this. The legacy you carry, the power you wield, it's more than just a weapon against darkness. It's a testament to the resilience and strength of your lineage. Go with that strength, Ilara.
Chapter 10, Bonds of Fire. Alara embarked on her perilous quest, leaving Tala's hospitable haven beneath the watchful gaze of the silent trees. The elements whispered to her, their essence harmonizing with her own. Although there was no discernible trace of Finn's whereabouts, the pendant pulsated subtly, guiding Alara as long as she concentrated intently. Destiny seemed to lead her to a place where the earth quaked and the trees quivered, the heart of Lord Calum's dominion, where his forces gathered and his will was executed. A formidable fortress loomed before her, shrouded in ethereal energies that clawed at her resolve. It appeared out of place in both time and space, alien to this century and continent. It had not existed a week ago.
Magic, different from mine but potent nonetheless.
Finn was ensnared by ethereal chains, the fortress's dimly lit corridors casting shadows over his struggle. His captors, agents of Calum's dark intent, kept watch, yet they were unaware of Alara's nearing presence. She had practiced hiding her energy, a meticulous effort to tread lightly and unseen, allowing her to slip through their awareness. With unwavering resolve, Alara glided into the fortress's heart, quiet as the morning's first breath. Each footstep wove her communion with water into a misty shroud, obscuring her vision but muffling any noise. Fire danced around her fingertips, awaiting her command like a flickering ballet of sparks. Doubt assailed her as she neared Finn's cell, lashing at her like a cruel winter wind. Could she triumph over these foes alone? Would her control over the volatile elements falter in the face of this adversity? Finally, Calum's minions detected Ilara's presence as they turned toward the shifting shadows, their senses heightened. Stealth was no longer an option. With a fierce cry, she unleashed the inferno within her, sending a cascade of flames arcing toward the dark sentinels. Chaos erupted as fire and ether clashed, spells colliding and elemental might roaring through the halls in a tempestuous battle. Alara wielded the inferno's fury with unmatched precision, her anger a searing blade that shattered the chains binding Finn. His expression transformed from incredulous astonishment to fierce admiration as he broke free and joined Alara's side. United, they unleashed the seething turmoil upon their adversaries, wind fanning the flames, water quenching the inferno where necessary, and earth rising to shield them from retaliation. They became the storm and the sanctuary, entwined in battle as they were in spirit. With a final, concerted effort, Alara and Finn vanquished the remaining bastion of darkness, leaving smoldering embers as the remnants of their triumph. Panting, their gazes locked in a silent acknowledgement of each other's worth. Alara had chosen wisely. Power alone was not the most potent weapon in their arsenal. Trust, loyalty, and unwavering commitment to their righteous cause were the pillars of their true strength. Exhausted yet invigorated, they retreated from the enemy's lair as the morning light heralded a new chapter in their saga. There were still rituals to perform and battles to face, but the trials they had endured had forged an unbreakable bond, a bond ignited by fire, shared in purpose, and unwavering as the earth itself. Ashford awaited their return, the skies above clearing as if honoring the victory of balance over discord. As they re-entered their sanctuary's protective embrace, Alara and Finn understood that they had traversed an elemental trial of their own making, a trial that revealed the most potent power resided within the heart. Once they were safely beyond the reach of immediate danger, Finn turned to Alara, his voice filled with admiration.
Your concealment was flawless. Did Tala teach you that?
Alara, feeling a mix of slight embarrassment and pride, shook her head with a modest smile.
No, I just knew I needed to find a way to mask my energy.
Finn's response was succinct, but it resonated with profound astonishment.
Incredible.
The path to confronting Calum was more intricate and arduous than ever before. Undeterred, they marched forward together, one guardian of lore, one weaver of elements, two warriors resolute in their defiance against the shadow's relentless grip. Chapter 11, The Ritual of the Solstice. As the day waned and the horizon blushed with the first hues of sunset across the Ashford landscape, the solstice approached. A time of perfect equilibrium between night and day, it heralded a renewal of cycles and celebrated light's triumph over darkness. For Alara Turner and Finn Lark, it presented an opportunity to unlock Alara's elemental connection fully. They selected the Heartwood Clearing, a hallowed site where the verdant arms of ancient trees reached toward the heavens, blessing the ground below. The world's veins throbbed strongest here, and the whispers of the past resonated with promises of the future. As the celestial canvas turned into a tapestry of stars and the Milky Way's silver ribbon, the time drew near. Alara stood at the center of the clearing, encircled by glowing runes Finn had carefully drawn on the ground. They absorbed the twilight, their contours emanating a soft radiance. Both understood the moment's gravity. The awakening that began in Ashford Library would culminate amidst the Heartwood's ancient guardians. However, as they prepared, a premonition of impending doom ran down Finn's spine. Calum's spies were ever watchful, and the ritual would draw their attention.
Stay vigilant.
Finn cautioned as he lit the final candle, its flame joining forces with the rune's protective light. The world paused as Alara closed her eyes, beginning the age-old chant that would intertwine her spirit deeper into the elemental fabric. It began as a whisper from her soul, an ancient language as fluid as rivers, as steadfast as mountains, and as all-consuming as fire. Finn watched over her, the silent guardian against encroaching interference. As the incantation intensified, the earth rumbled, the air grew electric, and the candles flared brightly, responding to a primal call. From the surrounding thicket, shadowy figures emerged. Calum's minions, their ether-charged presence disrupting the ritual's sanctity. Finn moved to intercept the intruders, his elemental pendant glowing fiercely. The clash erupted immediately. Calum's minions charged at Finn's luminous barrier with practiced ease. Each collision reverberated through the wards, yet Finn held strong. Ilara's voice rose above the chaos, cutting through the cacophony of battle. She stood as the eye of a tempest, serene and unyielding. Her connection to the elements intensified, her form glowing with an otherworldly light as the solstice moon ascended to its zenith. Fire surged within her, coursing through her veins as flames danced upon her skin. Rivulets of water wound up her arms, caressing her without soaking her. Tendrils of roots and earth spiraled around her feet, while the gusts of wind wove through her hair like an ethereal crown. As the malicious ones battered against Finn's defenses, the earth beneath their feet split open, and vines erupted to entangle them, drawing strength from Alara's incantation. The wind swelled against the shadows, banishing them back, while the fire traced symbols of protection in the air. Alara's presence resonated through the night, her words echoing through the bones of the earth and the stars above. With a voice that resounded through the universe, she uttered the final words of power. In that moment, bathed in the solstice moon's argent embrace, the ritual culminated in a blinding pulse of illumination, a beacon of affirmation from the universe itself. Energy suffused her, filling every crevice of her being, binding her to fire, water, earth, and air with unbreakable threads. Finn broke free from the skirmish to witness the transformation, an awakening that melded flesh to spirit and essence to elements. Alara's eyes, now shining with the ancestral force of creation, met his. A profound understanding passed between them. Their bond had transcended words, beyond shared knowledge or endeavor. They had become integral to one another, each the guardian of the other's soul, fated companions in their intertwined destinies. Caelim's minions retreated, repulsed by the raw display of elemental supremacy. The Heartwood clearing settled into a sacred calm. In the aftermath, under the night sky's approving glow, Alara's newfound mastery hummed in resonance with the rhythms of the world.
We did it, Finn.
Alara spoke, her voice resonating with the power flowing through her.
Nothing can hurt us now.
But Alara knew that wasn't really true. As the solstice progressed, Alara and Finn stood facing the horizon hand in hand, their spirits alight with certainty and an enigmatic calm. Their journey was far from over. The true challenge awaited in the days ahead. Yet, they stood resolute, prepared to face the fires of adversity, confident that their forged bonds of fire, would illuminate their path through the impending darkness and beyond. Chapter 12, The Final Confrontation. The dawn arrived, casting golden spears of light across the serene town of Ashford. An underlying tension pervaded the air, a ripple in reality caused by the ritual conducted the previous night. Alara Turner felt the planet's pulse coursing through her veins, a rhythmic energy both foreign and comforting. She stood tall upon Ashford's streets, her gaze sweeping across the familiar sights. They knew full well that Lord Caelim would not delay. His coming was as certain as the rise of the sun, and as ominous as the darkest eclipse. With Ashford's quiet streets lying in deceptive calm, the two elemental custodians steeled themselves for the confrontation that would decide all. As if on cue, the sky darkened, and a chilling wind swept through Ashford. Lord Caelim appeared at the town's edge like a tempest personified, his eyes gleaming with malice and assured of a victory. Alara stepped forward, her every movement radiating the primordial power she now wielded. Fear had been replaced by resolute determination, her will as solid as the earth itself. With a hint of mockery, Caelim sneered,
"Oh, I see you're a little faster now. Is that supposed to scare me?"
Alara remained silent, her response manifested in the elements surrounding her. She summoned lightning and storm, commanding the wind to howl and fire to rage. Finn stood by her side, summoning a protective barrier. Caelim retaliated with his own formidable display, unleashing dark ether in oppressive tendrils. The charming streets and tranquil homes of Ashford became the backdrop for a cataclysmic clash between dark and elemental forces. Alara's control over the earth countered Caelim's advances, causing the streets to buckle and crack. Vines and roots erupted from the cobblestones, binding the Dark Lord's movements. Water spouts from the town's fountain hardened into spears, lunging towards Caelim at Alara's command. Ashford's citizens watched in disbelief as their once peaceful town transformed into an elemental battleground. The gentle skies became a canvas of fury, reflecting the cataclysmic struggle. Amidst the chaos, Alara attuned herself to the raging elements. Finn watched Caelim intently for a weakness.
His shifts are too rigid.
Alara shouted amidst the storm, her voice carried by the wind.
He can't defend and attack simultaneously.
Finn nodded in agreement.
Use that. Your strength lies in handling multiple elements at once. Keep him off balance.
Alara executed her strategy with precision, orchestrating an intricate dance, transitioning seamlessly between elements, made easier by the ritual. Seizing the moment, in an absurdly dangerous gambit, She dropped her wind defenses against the endless shadow assaults and unleashed a torrent of fire directly at Calum, engulfing him entirely. Caught off guard by the searing pain, Calum recalled all available ether from his shadow forces into creating a barrier. That was the turning point. Deprived of their energy, Calum's shadows dissipated like mist under the morning sun, a process everyone knew would take minutes to reverse. With their master's downfall imminent, the remnants of his non-shadow soldiers lost their resolve and retreated, each in their own way, some sinking into the shadows, others fading into the air. Alara restrained Calum with a combination of earth and wind, immobilizing him, while Finn worked to bind his energies, a technique Alara was witnessing for the first time. Gradually, Calum sank into the ground, which would serve as his temporary prison until they could transfer him to a more secure location.
We won.
Alara proclaimed, her voice brimming with excitement and a touch of wonder. The elements seemed to echo her declaration, the sudden calm, a stark contrast to the fury that had raged moments before. Alara addressed her fellow citizens, her voice filled with a newfound strength.
Together we stand strong and unyielding. Ashford is our home, and we will protect it always.
Their bonds, forged in fire and reinforced by the unyielding strength of earth, the adaptability of water, and the unending grace of air, had held. Chapter 13, Ashes and Rebirth. In the aftermath of the tumultuous battle that had consumed Ashford's heart, a profound silence enveloped the town square. Alara Turner and Finn Lark stood among the ruins, contemplating the site of their triumph. Calum's chaotic ether had dissipated into the frigid air, leaving no trace. Ashford's townsfolk gathered, their eyes wide with awe, fear, and gratitude. Murmurs of magic being real and the downfall of Lord Calum rippled through the crowd as Alara and Finn's heroism heralded a new dawn for the once tranquil town. Finn temporarily took charge of the imprisoned lord, ensuring his confinement neutralized any immediate threats. Yet, the decision to either permanently imprison or banish Calum would be left for the council to decide. The spectacle attracted others from the shadows. Elemental masters emerged, drawn to the potent upheaval. They recognized Alara, once an ordinary librarian, as the sentinel of balance between the supernatural and the mundane. Their eyes, laden with centuries of wisdom, acknowledged the arrival of a guardian whose strength stemmed not only from her abilities, but from her unwavering resolve and intellect. Finn introduced Alara to these sentinels, an informal acknowledgement of her place among the keepers of harmony. The masters exchanged respectful nods, recognizing the new guardian who had shaken their world. In the ensuing tranquility, Finn and Alara retreated to Heartwood Clearing, the site of the ritual now marked by lingering cosmic energies. Beneath ancient trees, their leaves murmuring secrets, they contemplated their next move.
Should we reveal ourselves or retreat into the shadows once more?
Finn pondered, voicing their dilemma. Alara, feeling the elements coursing within her, weighed their options. Their world had remained concealed for eons, shielded from chaos. However, Ashford had witnessed the arcane. Denying its implications would be futile.
We have an opportunity to bridge worlds, to foster understanding. Fear thrives on the unknown. Perhaps it's time for the unknown to become known, to dispel ignorance with knowledge.
Finn contemplated her words, the potential repercussions unfolding like firelight dancing in the darkness. Unveiling elemental powers to the modern world could incite unpredictable change. It was a path fraught with uncertainty, but as Alara believed, it might be the path forward. The decision was not theirs to make alone. They would consult other masters, weighing risks and rewards. The secret of elemental powers had endured, but Alara and Finn had demonstrated that even steadfast truths could evolve. As they returned to town, Alara observed Ashford's people. Life resumed. Children played, vendors rebuilt. It was a reminder that change was as inevitable as the seasons. The tranquil morning in Ashford had brought their greatest challenge, yet also their finest triumph.
The fall of Lord Calum is merely the first chapter of a larger tale.
Alara stated, her voice gaining conviction.
Indeed,
Finn agreed.
and together we will pen the subsequent chapters.
The fall would become an ascent, a rise testing their bonds and commitment to forging a brighter world. Hand in hand, Alara and Finn moved forward, their steps echoing amidst Ashford's whispers of change. After story, the heart of Ashford. Nature itself seemed to exhale with relief as the ominous skies cleared and Ashford transformed back into a tranquil town. Alara returned to the library, welcoming old and new patrons alike, with a new sense of fame. Books teemed with knowledge and tales of courage, but an aura now surrounded her, whispering of depths untold and secrets embraced. Alara carved out a sanctuary in a discreet corner of the library, hidden behind ancient scrolls and texts chronicling centuries past. This secret nook, bathed in candlelight, housed tomes of elemental lore and wisdom, deepening her understanding with each passing day. Finn Lark, the guardian who stood by Alara, found himself woven into Ashford's serene tapestry. The bond they shared, forged through trials, had only grown stronger. While restlessness often accompanied his travels, Ashford's peace and the company of his new friend persuaded him to stay. Lord Calum's defeat did not go unnoticed among elemental masters. Whispers traveled, spreading tales of awakened potentials and unfolding destinies. Ashford's events stirred something ancient, rousing a dormant lineage of guardians from slumber. In Ashford's daily rhythm, Alara embraced her dual role. By daylight, she guided minds towards discovery and enlightenment. At dusk, she stood as a vigilant protector, her powers a glowing testament to her resolve. She became an unspoken emissary of balance, her existence narrating the coexistence between the mundane and the magical. Finn, ever watchful, supported Alara in her dual life. His presence wasn't solely duty-driven. A sense of warmth grew in the quiet moments they shared, promising future adventures with each secret and knowing glance. Yet, even as peace blossomed in Ashford, a subtle shift hinted at an unrest not quite subdued. Deep within the caverns of a distant realm, remnants of Lord Calum's essence pulsed with a dark persistence. Power, once fragmented, sought to coalesce, yearning for a vessel and a cause to reignite ambitions that smoldered but were not extinguished. It was a quiet threat, a mere possibility amidst the infinite expanse of what-ifs, a harbinger for tales yet to be told. Life found its rhythm in Ashford, and the heart of stories beat on. The library's walls, saturated with the imagination of countless generations, became a haven of possibilities. Alara, ever at the core, served as the conduit between pages inked with dreams and the living canvas that was her world. The stage was set, characters poised, for the next chapter would be crafted not just by fate's indiscriminate pen, but by the lives touched by the woman who had become much more than a caretaker of books. She had become a guardian of worlds. May I present to you the writer. By day, Luke Taylor is a humble software engineer, but at night he transforms into an amateur writer, apparently. I guess we'll see if this ever happens again.
Hey, thank you for listening to my story. This took way longer than I thought it was going to. Oh, by the way, I'm Alex Taylor, aka Luke Taylor, and if you are so inclined, I will leave a link to a tip jar in the doobly-doo. This all started when I heard Brian McNulty's video on storytelling. It was a modified version of Save the Cat, written by Blake Snide, which was originally a guide for making supposedly a foolproof screenplay, but it was later adapted for writing novels. Basically, it basically gave you an outline. You just filled in the details. So I started off, I wanted to do an experiment to see if ChatGPT could craft a novel from just an outline. And I determined that no, it could not. Generative AI requires heavy babysitting and a constant human driver making it work. But I had the outline, and I already had some of the stuff that had been generated. I wanted to, make it into a story. I wanted to finish the story. Now, this would never have happened if not for help from my daughter. She is way, way better writer than me. And she looked at my early drafts and would say, oh, she's like, that's crap, that's crap, that's crap. How about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? She spent many hours of her time, and she's very busy, and I appreciate that. The musical passages are by James Dumas. He is an awesome composer. He's made music in various different styles. You can do a Google search or something. I believe his string quartet is available. If you like classical music, you can check that out. Oh, I wanted to talk about the poem. Now, originally, I wanted the poem to be in ancient Norse, since I associate ancient Norse gods most with nature, and besides, Latin is overused, but I wasn't able to find a believable, text-to-speech engine for ancient Norse. Now, the closest language to ancient Norse is modern Icelandic, but it's still a pretty obscure language. So I ended up going with Swedish. I thought the Swedish sounded good, and you know what? I actually do relate with contemporary Swedish culture, at least in as much as I know it. Maybe if I moved there, I'd feel differently. But so yeah, I like it. I think it sounded good. I had actually considered having a second Swedish incantation in the ritual, but I decided against it because I'm under no delusion that normal people speak Swedish. I don't speak Swedish, and I was actually worried that the original incantation was actually too long. So ultimately, I axed that idea. The story has changed so much from the original outline. It's just ridiculous. Originally, Finn was going to be a sidekick, an eventual love interest, and Grandma Tala was going to be like a helpless grandma with no powers whatsoever. But I'm glad for the changes that I make, and I think the strict no romance angle is better for this story. So thank you for listening. I hope you had enjoyed it. Good night and good luck.
Text-to-speech voices by OpenAI and 11 Labs. Generative AI, automated revisions and grammar checking provided by OpenAI, Mistral, Gemini, and Grammarly. AI images by Dolly and Stable Diffusion. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.
May the elements guide you, child, and protect you from the shadow's grasp.